All right, before we really get into the video, I want to show you something here. I got one of my outlines that I created using this topic, and as you can see here, we're going to take this, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it in that printer over here. We're going to scan this real quick, and then when I get it scanned up, I'm going to start the video again, and I'm going to show you the overall criteria. We'll read it. Okay, well that's loaded, and we're going to go over to the internetmillionaireRecipe.com. It's a product that I created. There I am. And we're going to scroll down to these bonuses here, because what I'm going to show you is an example out of a bonus that I created for this product on how to use this technique for the outline for each chapter. And this is the report we're going to look at: automatic motivation, how to instantly take action on anything you wish. And here's the ebook itself, how to always take massive action. We're going to be looking at this chapter as I show you the outline. Before we get to the chapter, I'm going to give you the overview of the outline, which you can find here. Let me move these over here. And this is what I scanned. And while we're waiting for that, let's flip this back over here. Oops, let me get that out of the way. So these are the two outlines that we have. I'm going to show you these outlines first, and I'm going to show you how they relate and how I flesh these outlines out to write the report. So action criteria chapter. The why. It empowers you for decisions. It prevents you against destructive decisions. Helps the proper help balance on how you help others. And it helps you accomplish anything you desire. So there's the accomplishment, a positive accomplishment. This can be used both ways. The help balance for positive and negative affiliation. And then this is for powering. Prevents destructive behavior means control. So this is prevents destructive behavior to be negative power, and positive power will be obviously empowers your decisions. Okay, so those are the why. That's the why section of the outline. I'm going to talk about in that section that when I open up the chapter, it's going to tell them what I'm about to tell them on the action criteria, how it will empower their decisions, prevent them from making destructive decisions, give the proper help balance for others, and help them accomplish anything they desire. So once that's said, then I'm going to give them the main concept. What I'm going to do that I've written down here in my notes is proper criteria for max pleasure, min pain with action motivation shift. So the concept is to show them how to maximize their pleasure and minimize their pain by making better actions and then moving towards those actions so they're not self-destructive. So the principles behind that I'm going to illustrate this concept is the brain processes everything, then condenses it down into sound bites, and those sound bites are called submodalities. So the overall process there is how to encode your submodality to get the concept, which is maximum pleasure and minimum pain, based on deciding on what you take action on. So then the procedure for doing this is simple. Determine order of criteria for action, determine submodality encoding, select criteria to change, then adjust submodality encoding. So what I've done here in the what section is I gave the concept the one sentence pitch, and you'll see exactly how I flesh that out when I show you the example from the book. And then the principles that make this concept true are there. The process, the overall big picture before we get into the exercise is here, and then this is exactly how you do it here. And then what's next is the how. These are some of the sticking points here. Confusing context with value. Does everything look okay is another thing. To master the skill, and positive tenses is the last thing required. And then what if? What will happen if they master the skill of this chapter? What if? Ultimate happiness, quick changes, fulfillment. So with that in mind, this doesn't really probably make much sense to you now, but it will here in a second as I show you how I took this outline, which took me a minute and a half at most to create. I did it right at the top of my head, fleshed this out into a kick butt chapter. So here we go. We're at the chapter right here. Criteria of action. Shift your criteria, change your life. And like I showed you here, action criteria chapter. So we're going to go through these, and I'm going to point out each individual thing, how I fleshed it out. So based on, I looked at my outline and said, okay, this is what I'm going to start off. I'm going to tell them how it's going to empower their decisions, prevent them from making destructive behaviors, the proper help balance, and help them accomplish anything they desire. So this is how I do that. People are motivated by all kinds of weird illogical things. Bigwig corporates are motivated to financial success to the point that they die of a heart attack at age 40 long before they enjoy the fruits of their labor. This talks about the destructive behaviors. What I did is I looked at this and said, prevents destructive behaviors. So let me illustrate a destructive behavior so we can show them how to prevent it. Some of us are motivated to overeat for comfort, even though we know that in the long run it'll be harmful. Junkies are motivated to do whatever it takes to do drugs, and in the process devastate their own lives as well as the lives of others around them. So this also relates to destructing others, hurting others. The empowering yourself, and that goes with prevents destructive behaviors to others. So I use it in there. Okay. It's important for you to be able to elicit your own criteria for action as well as be able to shift aspects of it. Why? I come right out and say it in this product, in this chapter right here, and I recommend you too. You don't have to dress everything up. You just come right out and say it. Why? Well, as we described above, your criteria is what fuels your action, is what powers your motivation gadget. Do you think I used power by accident? No, I tied right into that first motivator. It's what powers your motivation gadget and determines what you'll do and how you'll do it. Many people have destructive or limiting behaviors, and there's only one cause for this, a destructive criteria for determining what actions to take. So I'm telling them this is why you want to learn this, to eliminate this. On the other hand, successful and happy people are always the way they are because they have powerful criteria for deciding what actions to take. They have the proper balance between helping themselves and helping others, between work and play, between enjoyment and gluttony. Helping others, that's what I'm talking about, the proper balance. That's the second key point in the why. Third thing here is the interesting thing is that most people go through their life without ever understanding that there's an underlying criteria for action that affects all the choices they make. This is sad because it's very easy to elicit your own criteria for action and shift it accordingly to accomplish almost anything you desire. So the third thing here, accomplish anything you desire. It's that simple. This was the accomplishment motivator. This was the affiliation motivator. So was this one, and this also ties in with the own empowerment, positive and negatively. So with that in mind, what's the next step? We go into the what after we talked about the why. So in this case, there's no accident that this has its own subheader because we're going to shift into another aspect of presenting this information, which is the what part, the what learning styles, what we're going to hit now. Overall, overview of action criteria shift technique. Here is our goal. I just come right out and say it, the concept. This is the concept. I could have even said it that way. It wouldn't have mattered. Here is our goal. To create the proper criteria to give the maximum amount of pleasure in your life and to minimize the amount of pain you experience, all by adjusting your criteria of action to be harmonious with your desires, personality, and ultimate purposes in life. So what I did here is I've condensed down the whole essence of this chapter into one single sentence, which is the first step that you take when you create your outline for the what section and concept. So I took proper criteria for max pleasure, min pain with action, motivation, shift. And when I saw that, I just kept writing and I was like, oh, okay, this is how I'm going to say that. Bang, 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 bang. Knocked it out. So that's what you got right here. So then to move on, now we move from the concept into the principles that make the concept true. Which in this case, if you look at the outline, is brain processes everything, condenses it into sound bites, submodalities. So watch how I did that. To understand how this works, you first have to understand a bit about how the brain works. The brain processes everything. It does so through your senses. Now, if you think of a memory, what happens? Does a movie, that whole experience, play in your mind? No. If it did, it would take you the exact amount of time to experience the memory as it did the actual experience. If you thought about a movie, you'd have to recall the memory for 2 hours. Instead, you could think of a movie you've seen that was 2 hours long and recall most of the details in mere seconds. The only way this is possible is because the brain works in sound bites. So, the first thing we talked about here was brain process everything, condenses it down to sound bites. Okay, so this is how I'm proving the concept and the principles that make this concept work. Okay. The only way this is possible is because the brain works sound bites. It condenses large chunks of information and gives them back to you in a way that you can quickly process them. It largely does so with a term I call submodality coding. So now we're into the submodalities and submodality encoding, what this means to them. Now think of the nastiest, ugliest place. Oh, wait. Now let me ask you this. Wait. I'm skipping some chapters here, sorry. Skipping some paragraphs. Do this quick. Think of the most beautiful place you've ever been to. How do you do this? You probably visualize a still picture or a movie in your mind. Now let me ask you this. How big is the picture or movie? How bright is it? Are you in it? Are you disassociated from it? Is the picture close to you or away from you? These are all visual submodality codings. Now think of the nastiest, ugly place you've been. What are the characteristics of the picture now? I bet it's in a different location. It may be farther away or closer than the beautiful picture you visualized a moment ago. I bet it is not as clear. I bet the colors are darker and more drab. I bet there are a lot of visual characteristics that are different. All of these things happen on the unconscious level. Good memories have certain colors, placements, locations, and so on. This allows you to automatically know if something is good or bad. It's not so much what you see in the picture, but how the picture is represented. And this is for only visual elements. You also have a sense of hearing. You might hear a beautiful, soothing rhythm when you see the picture, if it's a nice memory. If it's a bad memory, you might have a rough, unpleasant sound. The same is true for the sense of feel, and to a lesser degree, the sense of smell and taste. So these are what we will refer to as submodality codings. You are coded to be able to distinguish what is valuable for you, your criteria, and if you change that coding, you can easily change your criteria to stop self-destructive habits. Now let's get into the specific techniques for accomplishing this. So we've now went and we've knocked out the whole principles, which was these, and then we give in the overall process where I said it right here, submodality codings, and explain the overall view. And then I said, now let's get into the specific technique to accomplish this. How to shift your criteria for action. So now we're going directly into the part of the outline here. That's very simply the procedure. This is a step-by-step exercise they need to take from step 1 to the last step to get the desired result, to get the skill, to accomplish whatever you're teaching them to accomplish. This is where you take the steps. So step 1 is determine order of criteria for action. So let's see how I do that. The first thing you must do is to elicit what the order of your criteria for action is. So I just come right out and say it. Now it's time to flesh out what that means and how to do it. Okay, so here's how you do it. First, start with a very trivial action that you could do, but choose not to. For example, I could mow the grass right now, but I'm not going to. Now it begs the question, why do I choose not to mow the grass? Well, the grass is not tall enough, so I'd rather make more efficient use of my time doing something else. So my first criterion of action is efficiency. Okay, now let's elicit the next criteria of action. What would cause me to cut the grass even though it was not tall enough, thus violating my previous criterion? By the way, this is an excellent exercise that I do and I've taught other people to do. So you're getting 2 bonuses here. How to do the info product outline, and this is your little action motivator too, which I recommend you do. Well, if someone special was coming over to visit me and I wanted to give them a good impression, so my next criteria for action is to give someone special a good impression. Okay, now what would make me not cut the grass even though I knew someone special was coming over to visit and I wanted to give them a good impression? Well, I would neglect to cut the grass in this situation if I knew that by doing so, I'd be able to help a lot of other people by performing a different action. So my next criteria is helping others. So far, it goes like this. Criteria 1, efficiency. Criteria 2, impressing someone special. Criteria 3, helping out others. Okay, but let's dig a little deeper. What would make me cut the grass even by doing so? I had to sacrifice helping a lot of other people. Well, in this context, I guess I'd still cut the grass if by doing so I knew my family would be safe. For example, if someone said that if I didn't cut the grass, they'd harm my family. So by cutting the grass, I'd be ensuring my family's safety. By now, I'm sure you know what's next. What would cause me to violate my family's safety and not cut the grass? Well, if my own personal safety was on the line. So, okay, we're almost there. Now, what would cause me to cut the grass if doing so violated my own personal safety? Well, if doing so I'd save the whole world, then I would do it. Thus, here's my criteria. Number 1, efficiency. 2, impressing someone special. 3, helping others. 4, preserving the safety of my family. Preserving the safety of myself. Preserving the whole world. And then the final one is preserving the whole world. Neat, huh? I've now just figured out what causes me to act.